All right, we are live. So I kind of decided we were going to play Mass Effect Andromeda today, and decided we're gonna go ahead and start working in on Phandalin, and we're gonna have to take a look at the map of Phandalin, the encounters in there, and there's a lot of stuff in here to actually map. Let's be honest. So we're gonna go in and start looking at the actual adventure and see how we want to handle this. I don't, I know we're not going to do the town itself, but we're going to set up probably um, a street map or two with some buildings on it. And we're also, because of that, going to experiment with building these maps so that we also have tiles of the two-story buildings that you might be able to go into. And that'll end up porting over as being a level. So it'll be tricky, but we're going to work through this. So let's go ahead and pull Phandalin down here. Come on. All right. So basically, we know that this is the map. Um, I think Tressendar Manor is something we're going to have to map, but we're going to need to build a house above and then we'll build a dungeon below. Um, and that's where it's going to come into play, building this so we actually have tiles. So let's flip the screen. So that's where we're going to have where it's actually going to be like, this is the manor. And if you look, this is how you get down into it, I believe. Um, maybe. So where do you enter? Any explored grounds finds it's deserted. Um, Plenty of tracks leading to a stone staircase just off the empty ruin of a large kitchen. At the bottom of the stairs stands an unlocked door with a cellar beyond. When you open the door, read the following. Large storage cellar, exactly. So this is where they're going to enter. Like right in here. So I don't know. We may not do the manor because it looks like the manor is just a ruin. Um, but I do think that, when we look at this, the inn, they can go in and sit down, talk to people, stuff like that. I'm probably going to build out the inn. Um, Rundown tap house, dirty, dangerous watering hole, the end of Phandalin's main street, frequented by red brand thugs and operated by a surly female dwarf. Um, so if they go in here, that's where you'll need the red brand ruffians encounter. So, see, they don't give us a map for that, so we're going to have to make a scruffy inn. Um, and we'll need a street map, depending on how they do this. So, um, we can do the Sleeping Giant Tap House, we can do the Red Brand Hideout, and we can do a street map. And that'll take care of the 3 potential encounters for the ruffians. And I think we're still going to do the inn, because who knows, they may decide they want to stay there and sleep at the inn. There will be a provisioner, which is, store there. The orchard, there will be a quest going from there. Honor and vigilance. Townmaster's Hall. So that'll just be, I don't know that we need that. We'll see. But the Sleeping Giant, we're definitely going to build that out. But I think today we're going to start with the ruffian encounters. So let's build out the Sleeping Giant Tap House first. We'll go to the hideout, and then we'll make a street map. Lowrider22, thank you for the follow. It's greatly appreciated. Hope you're having an awesome day. So I think that's what we'll do. We're gonna create maps for the 3 possible encounters, and then we'll decide how we want to handle all these other maps. I mean, personally, I think having an inn, 2-story inn, is not a bad idea because you can always use that someplace in another campaign. So we're going to do that. Thank you for the raid as well. So we'll build that. And like I said, that can be used as just a standard inn. And we'll build that 2 stories, preferably with the intent of using it in the levels module. But I may also do the way I build out some of these 2 stories. I might build it twice. First, so we can create it for levels inside of Foundry, and then the second one where we have, the inn main floor, and then second floor on the bottom of the map. And if you don't want to go through using levels, then you'll just use multi-level tokens or something to teleport over, or just throw your characters from one level to the other. It doesn't really matter, but that'll give you the map in 2 forms. So, I mean, right now, the way we're thinking, we're going to end up having more work than I planned, but it'll end up making maps more functional depending on the tabletop that you use. I mean, I admit I build around using inside of Foundry because that's my tabletop of choice, but I have to also plan for, if you want to use the JPEG map inside of Fantasy Grounds or something else so that you have that and it's usable for you. But let's start working on the ones that we want for the ruffians first. All right, so we'll put that up there. Problem that we have is this. I really like having something that gives me dimensions, but I'm not going to go and get a tool and sit here and worry about, is this 20, 30 feet, whatever, when we're building it out. And then we need to figure out where we want to create we could do it when they're coming out of the Stonehill Inn, if that's where they stay. Create this street map where it's just showing top down for these couple of things. And then that'll be our encounter map for the street encounter. So I think that's what we're going to do. Now, I do want to do one thing first, and I'm going to actually set this up as a recording because I went in Foundry last night and started messing with making sure all the lines of sight and everything were doing exactly what they want to do. So let me pull Foundry over here. And the maps actually ended up, not being heinous. But I did want to point out something here. And let me do this. All right, so yesterday I went in and I did go ahead and test the maps inside of Foundry. And I wanted to point out something here so that you see exactly what comes in. If you notice, and if you watch the stream when we did it, we created the trunks and some of the large bushes so that they block light. And what that does, it does affect line of sight, which you kind of want some things to be able to block light and create hiding places if you wanted to create this like a encounter map where there's an ambush, things hiding in the bushes or something like that. Now, above, I went in and corrected these and turned them into terrain maps, or terrain markers, or walls, I should say. And the difference between terrain and regular walls down below, these have limited light restrictions and sight restrictions. And what that means is when your character is viewing, the fact that it's limited, they can see the terrain. So they can see the bush, but they can't see anything past it. Now, if you think that the bushes are creating too much of a block and you just want, see, like this is a tree trunk here, this is a bush, this is how they come in as walls where it's actually blocked. But if you think that the bushes are blocking too much as far as line of sight, you can always go into your wall section and just select the bushes and delete them. Now, if you're happy with everything blocking that I set it up to block, the larger bushes, small bushes I didn't worry about blocking. I mean, you could always eliminate the bushes where it's blocking line of sight and just put things behind it and set it, go in here, right click it. Let's say you wanted her to be behind a bush. You click that, she's invisible. The party can't see her. And then she pops out and goes surprise and drops fireball on everybody and kills them, because that's what that character would do. But if you want to make it so it's terrain, all you're going to do is go in, have it, the walls, use the select box, and you can do the whole thing at once. I just do it in sections, but you do that, you'll double left click on it, you'll click light restriction, limited, sight restriction, limited, and now it's a terrain wall instead of being an actual hard wall blocking everything. So I did want to show that today because, that's what it's intended to do when I place those, the block light for the trees. But the transition from Dungeondraft to Foundry doesn't recognize terrain walls. So you have to do the terrain walls inside of Foundry to correct them. And if you look now, we click on her. And now you can see the bush, just not what's behind the bush. You can see the rock, not what's behind it. And this will block everything in its way. So, anything behind there will be hidden. I will say Goblin Trail 2, I went in and checked that, and I actually only had the bushes set, so I went in and set terrain walls down. Um, on these, that's why they all look the same. I just threw down the size of the trunk because I didn't really care. But you go in, you click the pyramid, and you start dragging, hold control, and it'll draw off the last point that you drew, and then let go of control. That closes it in. We're going to get rid of that, but that's how you set terrain walls. And I'm not going to go in and redo this map to add those terrain walls. If you want the trees, just go in and set the terrain walls and everything will be good. But yeah, that's how you do it. So if you do have any questions about the walls and stuff like that, you can either go into the Patreon, put comment down below, come into the YouTube video that'll be up, and ask any questions you have, and I can answer that at a later time. But that'll be it for that. All right. I wanted to record that showing how to fix those maps because if anybody downloads them, they'll be like, wait, why is that one missing the trees? And why are the trees showing up as walls and all that kind of stuff? It just makes life easier. So, but like I said, the maps turned out not bad. This is one that I plan to use for like a snare trap because it overhangs the road. Anything walks into this square, they're getting hit by the snare trap, hung upside down because nobody's going to be doing freaking perception checks. Let's face it, Lost Mine is like a teaching module, and it's there to teach you stuff like you need to be doing perception checks to make sure everything is good. But all three of these maps have all that stuff. I went in myself and corrected the line of sight on the other things. This one I would recommend keeping all of the line of sight in because you don't want them being able to see if you've got your goblins set up over here, which is kind of how I built it and planned it. You know, when they come in, maybe seeing something over there, then running across the woods. But yeah, all the line of sight works. It's just a little bit of work to go in and correct the lines so that they are terrain walls instead of actual walls. And then Cragmaw, we did test this as well yesterday. And where we created our walls, I think part of the problem with Cragmaw is they will see inside of here. It might not have seen inside of there, but because these squares are not big enough. But and then the other thing, and I'm not going to worry about fixing it, but if you use Foundry, you know that some of these things don't transpose over, so this sees a little bit inside of there. You can always go in and fix that, but until I actually see, I didn't correct all of these terrain walls, and one of the issues is this thing has a ton of points, a ton, and you know, like right there, I drew the square. You see the delay. When I went in yesterday, when the map was, I'd finished working on it a little bit, it does start to get a little bit laggy. And like there, you didn't even see the red square pop. So I like using the curve tool and stuff, but if this thing gives you a little bit of lag, you might want to pull down the WebP or the JPEG image and draw the lines yourself. And I know there's a module inside of Foundry that does make it a little bit easier to draw curves and stuff on the walls, because I use Dungeondraft and transpose everything over from that. I don't use it, but man, what the hell is the name of that module? I don't think I have it installed on this test server. Let's take a look. I use a lot of freaking modules, I admit it. Some of them I need to pull off because I don't use initiative double click. I don't use the free content because I do the Patreon for that. Turn marker gets really glitchy, so don't fucking use that. And then VTTA works to download stuff. It does work okay to download adventures and all, but it's not being maintained. The last that it was working with was 8.8. I'm using what, 9.23, whatever it is on this server, and I think I stayed at 9 on the nose on my virtual server that I use to run my games on. But at this point, I may go back to using the D&D Beyond importer, Mr. Primates. My issue with that, unless he's fixed it so the adventures, I don't have to pull in every damned spell and everything in the compendium. It just makes your files too big. So I'm going to test that on my server this weekend and see what it pulls in. If it pulls in the monsters directly from D&D Beyond now with all their spells and attacks, then it'll be fine. But if I have to bring in every weapon, every spell, every monster to make things work, then it's still not worth the Patreon in my opinion. So, but I'm giving it a test this weekend just to see. It was a major problem before. It ended up hyperinflating the size of my games, the data, and that makes it so that people load in and things get really, really slow. So that's the danger of listening to the way it used to be, where they're like, well, if you're going to do this, you have to download every item, every spell, every creature, every monster, and then you can pull in the adventure. They need to pull the adventure in with the stuff that's just in the adventure, not make you do that, because it's extremely problematic if you do it the way that it used to tell you to do it. So I'm going to do a little research, test it. If it still screws everything up, then I don't know. I may start manually going in and just putting the adventures in manually, because it's not that difficult. And then I'll just use the VTTA, which ends up being a Chrome extension, and you would log into if you do a local game, you log into your local game on the Chrome extension. You connect to your D&D Beyond account, and then you can download just the monsters and creatures that you need for everything. It actually still works on 9.0. I just decided not to pull it in here. All right, let's get this out of the way. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and close that server out for now. All right, so I need my D&D Beyond up. It's over here. That's stupid. That's stupid on my part. That's fine. All right, so we have three maps that we need to do. Let's you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to save that map for reference. Big on folder structure when I'm doing maps like this, so all right. So that's our map. We'll use that for reference. So, like I said, we're going to do the 3 Red Brand Ruffian maps that are needed. We'll start with the Sleeping Giant Tap House. Where on this map is the Sleeping Giant? It's the Stonehill Inn. Is it like on the outskirts of town? You know, they put them there like, scummy people are going to be on the outskirts of town. It's down the street from Stonehill Inn. Looks like it's about 40 feet long. Maybe longer than that. Because if you look at this, it's kind of like 2020, so 40 feet by maybe 60. Maybe. With a, I'm guessing that little overhang secondary room is maybe storage or something. So start a new map. So 40 feet's what? 8 tiles by... My brain hurts. 8 by 12. So let's go... 15 by 20. How about that? And if it's not enough, we can grow it. All right, and we're going to need to edit our asset packs because, let's see, we were building around a cave, and we'll take some of this stuff off that we don't need. Oh, it's not bringing anything in. Used to be that so let's do this. Floor, terrain. Let's just start throwing shit in here. I still bring those legacy assets in. I'm going to bring roofs in just in case. So we need artificial because that's for flooring and stuff. Do the natural for outside. We don't need crypts. We need interior furnishing. Miscellaneous is something I've brought in forever. Don't need statues. We need storage. We'll bring this in because that's our compass rose. I tell you what, I do need to go in and update some of these assets. I haven't done it in forever. We took like a month or 2 off because we had what? We had Horizon Forbidden West come out, and we played through that. we had which was a disappointment, Valhalla expansion come out, and that was only what, 20, 21 hours of gameplay. But Forbidden West, we played a lot of that. I think that was like a month of playing, maybe a little less, but we definitely went through and tried to bang out as much as we could. All right, let's accept. And I think that'll give us what we need. And we always give it a little bit of room so we can title the map, all that good stuff. I think we are going to build this as a single story inn or a tavern. And then the Stonehill Inn will build that as a 2-story inn. And that's where we're going to start messing with building it with levels. And I'm really tempted to get a ruler out and check something here. We might, what we might want to do? If we could kind of build a square map, we could throw 3 things on at once. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to check something. So 3 inches is 200 feet. For us to be able to do that, we'd have to do... So that'd be 60 squares. We could probably build an 80 by 80 map that would include a bunch of these buildings. But let's do the individual buildings first. And then we may go in and build a fairly big map that could include the center portion of town. I mean, we could even do a 100 by 100 map, which would include a lot of this stuff. I think it's 128 max that we can do in either direction in this, but that does create a really big map. But that would be, let's be honest, that would be an interesting map build to do, especially building it out with the intention of doing setting up setting up for levels inside of Foundry. So we may end up doing that as a fairly big project. All right, so we said this is. First let's start by setting up our terrain. So we'll do sparse grass because it's inside of town. We'll fill with that. We're going to do something about this pattern because, you know, that doesn't like patterns. Not on the map. Intensity, smooth blending. So that'll get rid of some of that. Is it getting rid of it? Yeah, it is. I love when I select something and then it, you know, kind of messes it up. I do like to try to randomize this a little bit. And that way, we don't end up with those noticeable patterns. So a lot of times I'll use multiple terrains there. All right. So there's that. We're going to need to look at the sleeping giant, make sure there's not a cellar. If there is, then that changes the map. These places where bad guys are, they always have a basement. Rundown tap house, dirty, dangerous watering hole, the end of Phandalin's main street, frequented by red brand thugs, operated by a surly female dwarf named Grista. The characters choose to visit the place, run the red brand ruffians encounter. So that's a really, really general and generic description. So no basement. So we need some shitty floors, right? Excuse me. Allergies are killing me. Freaking spring. I'm not a fan of spring. I much prefer it when everything is dead. So that's just it. With some of the, which I pulled those out, I didn't want the base assets in for some of this. So we said 40 by 60, right? All right, that's a 40 by 60. I think I'm going to bump this up a little bit. Some of this will get wrecked by the street. All right, and we're gonna do this. I never really care about the freaking font. Let's go to looks like this is probably 15 feet off of here, so we might end up we're going to do it at 10. It looks like that it's like here. So that's fine. The entrance is on this side. We'll put a dirt path out here. And we'll place a door somewhere in here. But let's get our wall up. Doesn't say it's a nice stone building or anything like that. So we just need some wood walls. Nothing fancy Dan. Yeah, put the plaster on the inside, so that's good. And then let's find just a wood wall without any plaster on it to run inside. I like that. This would be like a storeroom. We'll do a wall there. Tell you what, let's get rid of the plaster. It's run down. They can't afford plaster. And we'll make some little 10-foot space there. This will be our bar area. And then maybe, let's see, what do we have? We could do 1, 2, we could do 3 little side rooms here. 4 little side rooms. Let's do 3. A little bigger room and two other cubby rooms. How about that? All right. Let's find some doors that we like. We don't need 2x1 doors. We don't need fancy doors. We just need a wooden door. I don't know why I'm so picky about this. All right. We'll let that be the door for there. All right. That's the door for there. Put some windows in. How do we not have any windows? What's going on here? A lot of sills. Let's go to maps. We're going to save this real quick too. How do we not have windows? What's going on? I have no idea where our windows went. The fucking hell. I'm confused. All right, let me see. I might have to pull something in. This is not working. All right, tell you what, I'm going to do a quick search. I might have to. I think I need to start upgrading my freaking asset packs. Bear with me. Take a look at something. This could be a little bit of a time waster here. All right, so we don't have this. All right, I'm going to just update all of them. Yeah, we haven't touched this in so long. That's probably why we're missing a lot of shit. So we'll have to restart this map, clean up my folder structure real quick. And then restart it, which will mean we're going to have to reload the thumbnail, so it's going to take a little while. Should have done this last night. But I had to resolve an issue. I've got a druid in my party on Wednesday, and they wild shape all the time. And it's kind of become a problem because the wild shape module I was using is not working. So I found a new one, which I'm still testing. But it looks like it's going to work. So I'm going to close that out. Go in and clean up. All right. So let's go back to this. So now what I'm going to do, which will help with some of the load, I'm going to get rid of anything here that has, if we've got A version 3.02.05. Let's get rid of that and that. And then B, we'll get rid of that because that's probably just stuff that's been added. C, we have these two to get rid of. D, they've done a few versions there, haven't they? E, let's get rid of that. F, we only want one of each letter. G, H, legacy. Legacy B, Legacy C. Textures artificial. Do I not have the A? I do now. So we've got A, B, C, D. We've got 2 copies of D. Again, sorry about this. E, F. Natural textures, A. We've got 2 B's, C, D, E, F. And natural textures just go to F. I think that is everything. So this is where it's going to be stupid, because we're going to come in and we're going to have to redo the thumbnails. I know you can download the thumbnail file and install it in the folder and all that kind of bullshit, but we're just going to let it take its time, because that's how we roll. But now we should be all updated. Let's open this, and it's going to get pissed off because it's going to say you don't have these assets and those assets, but let's see what it does. Ooh, it looks like it's picking up the A's. All right, let's do this. And this is the only time I get a little bit nervous when they're doing this stuff, that stuff could just die. Oh, man. Tell you what, Loki had me up 3 times last night. I don't know what he got a hold of and ate, but he was not a happy dog last night. And I wasn't a happy dad. He got me up at 12:30, 2:15, and 5:20. So, you got to let them out. You can't not let them out, because then they just do something in the house you don't want them to do. But yeah, I got up and let them out 3 times. So, my 7 hours of sleep I should have had turned into probably 3.5, maybe 4. Because, you woke up like that, you can't get right back to sleep. I know I can't. And the funny thing is, he's a dog. He doesn't know that doing something stupid made him sick and have diarrhea all night. So he'll do whatever he did again. I can't say anything because, I mean, I've talked about it before. I've got certain things that I eat that give me issues the older I get, and because I still like them, I still eat them and pay the price. Last night was one of those nights. I made some big ass meatball sandwiches, loaded with meatballs and sauce, and thrown a ton of cheese on, and a big ass roll. I paid for that. This is the most exciting thing in mapping, waiting for your assets to load. All right, show me some windows now, baby. I'm still not seeing windows. Are you fucking kidding me? How are there no window assets? We're gonna have to look at something and research it real quick. This makes no sense. No sense at all. Let's look at Mega Sploot. I think I think we're gonna have to do this. So let's do this. We're going to place window assets, then we're going to run the walls up to them and see if that works. So we had the door like here. That'll work. And I think we're going to adjust the points after we set this down. So you know what? Let's just let it snap. We're going to pull the points in so they actually cover up most of that window. This is where using the tablet would be nice because it is much more precise. That doesn't look bad. And then we can test it. We use the light tool. See, Windows doing what a Window's supposed to do. So that works. Good deal. That's fine. We can get away with that. Still in shock that we don't have Windows. I mean, seriously. I mean, there are quite a few windows here, but they used to be in the portal tool. So I guess now you have to, you know, drop them where you want them and then pull it into it. It's kind of goofy. It's okay. All right, we're good. Now we'll start building this out. So we have our door. We need a little path. So we use the path tool, right? So this one kind of goes, meanders our way down through here. Shouldn't block light. We've got to make sure we don't have that blocking light, since we were blocking light with our path yesterday. Hey, Justice Switch, how's it going? You mean what mapping tool? It's called Dungeondraft. You can see it up in that upper corner. It does a pretty good job. I mean, honestly, the reason I use it is these walls, doors, windows, they all translate over to Foundry Virtual Tabletop, which means all I have to do is import the map in and everything's there. So I don't have to go back in and redraw walls, windows, set things up so that they work. This just pulls in and works. Now I did Wednesday and yesterday I worked on the first part of Lost Mine, and we did the Cragmaw hideout. Well, I could drop lighting in, but I'm going to say what I end up doing is I will put um, the light fixtures on the walls in this, and then I create the lighting inside of Foundry because the lighting effects inside of Foundry are much nicer. Are you familiar? Have you used Foundry? I mean, I went with I used Roll20 for a while. Um, then I moved to Fantasy Grounds because honestly, that was, as far as virtual tabletops at the time, that was probably the best one at the time, in my opinion. Um, Let me launch my test world. But then Unity came out, the most recent iteration of Fantasy Grounds, and it's nice, but, and there are big buts there. Um, it it gave me horrible problems when I first started using Unity. Somebody would click on an entry trying to pull up something in their character, and it would freeze for 2 minutes or crash. And, in the middle of a campaign, I don't have time to fuck around like that. Excuse me. So I started looking for a new tabletop, and I found Foundry. Well, Foundry is really nice. I mean, here's our map we finished for Cragmaw Hideout yesterday. I mean, here's what I'm talking about. The walls came in. I talked about this earlier. Foundry, when it brings in, which I ended up using Pathing Tool and using Block Light, and some of the curves didn't translate in, but I mean, I can come in and fix these real quick if I need to. I mean, you just sit here, go bam. And it's fixed now. But, the fact that the map all pulls in, it's misbehaving. The fact the map pulls in from the tabletop that we're using, everything runs really nicely. Now, stuff like I was experimenting last night because I've got a druid in the group, and she loves to use wild shape. Well, the wild shape thing I was using before was not really working well. Um, and I found a new one. I'm going to leave it over here so you can see what it does. But I found a new module, and this stuff's free, right? I found a new module that takes care of the wild shape. You pop that up. You've pulled in what you want her, the ones that she wants the wild shape into. She would, and this is what the player would do. She would go over this, and that's the, polymorph symbol. Click this. You want to keep your mental abilities, transform the token it's locked to, and here's the wild shape. Bam. It's now a fire elemental with the stats and, the attacks, all this kind of stuff that go with it. When she's done being a fire elemental, or, she can restore it herself, or it'll automatically drop down. But there's all kinds of stuff in here that make this really nice. Now, the lighting, what I've found inside of Dungeondraft transposes over, which I guess you could go ahead and do that. But let's say this is a lit fire instead of one with just like dead burning embers, right? You go in, you click the lighting tool, go here, you'll create your light. You can, the radius, if it was a fire, would be what? 40 dim, 20 bright. And then you've got a lot of other options in there. But let's update the light source there. Let's go to darkness. You can turn the light off and on if you want to. So let's face it, it's like a torch, right? So we're going to come in and set it so it looks like a torch, where it pulses because it's a fire. Your base configuration, you may want to go in and mess with the lighting color. So let's say you want to go somewhere in the yellow spectrum. I only went a little bit green there, but I don't really give a shit. But now you've changed the light color. You can do even more advanced options inside of lighting. So, you can set up your light really quick inside of here. And there are a lot of, really cool things you can set up. I've used it for different effects inside of rooms. Like if you walk in and there's a fog in there, I'll adjust the coloring and everything, and the lighting becomes the fog. It's just got a lot of cool stuff. And so let's go ahead and let me kill this light source because we don't need that. It's all dark in here. But let's click on our character. So right here, I've got a module that's called D&D Beyond Importer. So it's free to be able to. I set up campaigns on D&D Beyond. I have them take care of their character building on D&D Beyond, and then I download everything. Now, the only thing that you do have to be careful of is, like, spells can be silly. It won't pull in all spells. It may only pull in spells that you have memorized inside of D&D Beyond or prepared. So, some things, and you don't want to mess with currency. Let's say they found gold. Let's say they found equipment. I usually turn that stuff off, and then I let them pull in their other spells from the compendium over here, and it's all prepared. You can also pull in adventures from D&D Beyond, and you can also update what your character has to D&D Beyond, but that is also something that I pay a Patreon for that usability. The import of the character is all free. Stuff like now there is a free option, called VTTA. VTTA. It's at vtta.io. The only issue that you can run into is supposedly it's only compatible up to Foundry 8.8. I run a Foundry 9 server and I still use it, and it will import the adventures directly in without a problem. As well as the monster import is better than what you have here. But I'm experimenting with this one again this weekend for adventure import because I think he's done some stuff that changes it. So Foundry is a $50 one-time fee. Period. You pay $50, you own it forever, which beats monthly fees and stuff like that. And if you own all your crap on D&D Beyond and you're building your characters on there, you've got your D&D Beyond subscription, that's totally separate. The importing stuff, if you go with VTTA, that's free. I keep hoping the guy updates, but it still works. So that's not a problem. It basically works as a Chrome extension. So you log into your campaign through Chrome. You bring down the Chrome extension, you click, it connects to your campaign. And then you go in, and when you click on something, you can basically pull all that stuff in. So if you own all your crap on D&D Beyond and VTTA works, which it still does, then it's a $50 investment. If you want to use Mr. Primate's thing, it's like $4 a month, which the guy puts in like 10 hours a day, is because you know how D&D Beyond is. They freaking mess with that API in the background. Plus, he's always adding new stuff. So that's become his full-time job. So I don't really care about paying a $4 Patreon every month. I just don't. But you do have free options. And if you just need to bring in one monster, VTTA is better because you can actually, once you've connected on your server through Chrome and you click the Chrome extension that connects to your game that you're running, you then, when you open a window up in the same Chrome window, it'll have a VTTA thing and it'll say import, and you click it and it imports directly into your Foundry game, and you then have that as a monster inside your game. And if you really wanted to, you could create a compendium out of all the things that you've downloaded, so you only have to do it once, and have that as a saved compendium that you can pull in any Foundry game and have all the monsters that you want. So, it just depends on how you want to do it. Like I said, you can get in and play for $50. No, they connect. So I run a virtual server online. I pay like $90 a year because I want to be able to run multiple campaigns, and I set all those campaigns up on that. But you can set all your campaigns up on your local server, your computer, or set up a local server in your house and everybody log into that, which is probably somewhat safer. And then they log in directly to you, and all they need is a web browser. So it is like Roll20 in that they connect to you using a web browser, and you just have to have the physical server up and running. Like right now, if I was to have somebody log into this, I would just have to give them my IP address, or what I usually do is set up a forwarding URL, and that sends it to me, and it does what it's supposed to do. It works perfectly. And then like with this, you can either have it set up so that, elves have dark vision, right? And there's a thing called perfect vision. If you pull that in, what it does, it looks at D&D rules, and if somebody has dark vision, they'll see in black and white like you're supposed to see with dark vision, because that's what it says. Unless you have devil sight, then you can see like you're in daylight. Now, if it's lit in here, then their vision goes back to color. So there's all kinds of stuff, and the beauty of it is, let me see. I don't know if I have it set up in here. Like I said, I just set this server up last night to to test my maps because I always like to test on a clean server. But let's see, what am I looking for? My brain just shut down. Actors, D&D Beyond Monsters. So that's the import from that. But the SRD monsters, let's pull in a skeleton. All right, so there's a skeleton sitting there waiting to be killed. So there's another module that I've added that actually makes things look nice. So let's say she's going to attack, right? Targeted, spellbook, firebolt. Let's see if it works. Normal roll. There's the firebolt flying over. There's your attack. And done. So, and I don't have everything set up properly on this yet because I didn't intend to do combat, but that firebolt flying off, that's a separate module that I downloaded, and it makes some really cool stuff. Yeah, in Foundry you can customize the dice, and yesterday I wanted to test that, so I went in and I downloaded a few extra dice settings to see. Let's see, what is it? Dice So Nice. So I went in and downloaded some extra modules for dice. I mean, you can customize your dice to whatever you want. There's your Foundry dice, and then you can change up your themes. There's so much you can do with the dice. And then there's your test roll to see what they're going to look like. So it just has a lot of cool options inside of it. Depends on my mood. I've used the poison dice. I change up dice all the time. No problem. Like I said, I really I enjoy using Foundry, so I don't know. It's almost like I've become a Foundry evangelist. It's kind of funny. But let's see if it works this time. Yeah, I've got to work on the setup on the server. But yeah, everything automates well. I would pull up my live server that I've gone in and taken care of my settings with MIDI and all that kind of stuff, which it doesn't take long. I just haven't messed with it. Like I said, I've got it set up for map testing right now. But normally what it'll do, it'll tell hit or miss. It'll do the I didn't mean to take her off. It'll do the damage reduction, all that kind of stuff. And as a DM, there's not a ton of stuff that you have to do. In fact, there's another module that I'm going to load on here and test because I just saw this yesterday. It's called a DM screen. Maybe it's not showing up in here. I saw it on I'll have to look it up again. But basically, it's a thing where you can click down below and it brings up DM screen. And you can set up all these windows across when you pop it up so you can have player stats and everything there. if you're like me and have had too many concussions, I'll forget what some conditions do. So you can set up a conditions screen on there so you just click it and don't have to keep looking at all the conditions. So you can make it almost like, if you're used to the old days where you sat at a table and played and had a DM screen, you can make it like a DM screen that pops up on your game, which is awesome. So I've got to install that and test it, and then I'll probably start using it inside my game. They should, but I'm not going to be greedy and say, "Hey, sponsor me. I'm cool." But yeah, it would save from multiple tabs. It creates a little button almost like window down on the bottom. You click it, it pops up, and there you go. But as when I flipped from Fantasy Grounds, which Fantasy Grounds is what, $150, right? And I was buying my books on D&D Beyond, and then Fantasy Grounds, you had to buy it again. Yeah, it's at a lower price, at like half price what retail is for hardcover, but you're buying it twice. So basically, you're buying a hardcover, you're buying the two virtual versions because they have licensing set up with D&D Beyond through at Fantasy Grounds, so you have to buy your books through them. Now, I understand that's their model. It generates cash for them, and that allows Fantasy Grounds to have free virtual server services for people to go in that run games and set up a virtual server instead of going through the hassle of well, you probably wouldn't be surprised, but so many people have issues setting up port forwarding on their modem, so it creates problems, because they can't figure out how to get it to that single port and get it to push through their modem. And you go in the Fantasy Grounds forums, and it used to be like half the freaking post. How do I get it to port forward? And they're like, hit search. That's how you find it, and then you'll find the answer in here. Because that's the internet and people are rude. But that's always an issue. And then you have the issue that everybody has to have a copy of the software. And if that one dude who didn't feel like, yeah, I do have a static public IP. But because I use a virtual server, I don't have to worry about it. It goes, and I'm going to tell you another thing that Foundry has in it, and it's one of the other reasons that I went to a virtual server. But let's real quick, Fantasy Grounds. Let's segue back and forth. With Fantasy Grounds, the one issue I always had, it was always one player. But if you have groups, you might have a player that forgets. And if they don't update their Fantasy Grounds to the current version like you did before you logged in, and you sent a thing over freaking Discord telling about everybody, update your Fantasy Grounds, and that one dude's too lazy to read, he won't be able to log in. I can't log in. And you get in and you're like, did you fucking update? No. Well, do that or you won't be able to get in. It was a weekly conversation. It made me just want to punch something because it just got so annoying. And so back to Foundry. Foundry actually has audio video built into it. And if you're self-hosting, the way it works as a peer-to-peer network. So let's say it's me and my normal 5 players, right? I send between 2.5 and 5 megabits per second up for that AV to work. And what will happen, let's pretend this is, my screen here is Foundry. You would have my picture here, their picture, next guy, all the way down, next guy, gal, whatever. So you'd have those 6 across, and everybody can use audiovisual inside of Foundry. It works perfectly if everybody has fast internet. I've got gigabit internet, so it doesn't matter if I've got 5 people, and let's say it's pushing the max. It's pushing 25 megabits up and 25 megabits down for each of those sending to me because they all send individually to me. Well, the players that have poor bandwidth, which I had a couple of those, the game starts running really slow for them, and the video is really bad. If you do a virtual server, then, yeah, I have gigabit up and down. Then, because I got fiber as soon as it was available, and it's worth it. If you have a virtual server, basically I'm sending to that. It's not running where I'm hosting it here, it's on their server. So I send once, and everybody else sends one path in and one path out. So they need 5 up and down for the audio video, plus whatever download it is for the assets to come in to start the game. And also, you can set it up so everything preloads, the map and everything preloads as they're coming in. And that also helps make everything work inside their browser faster. But that's the other reason that I went to a virtual server, because I was pushing to use the AV built in, so we didn't have to have Discord open and all these other programs. It was a one-stop shop, everything fits all, where you just logged into the server and you had your AV with the players and everything. And if you're streaming, it makes it real easy, which I haven't streamed a game in a long time. I'm probably going to, within the next 6 months, set up another game. But, it makes it real easy if you want to have cameras on there. No, for that, it has both audio and video. So audio and video all go through Foundry, and you don't have to have Discord open. I would have it up to send messages to people before, but then I would just throw it on one of my other screens here, because I have 4 screens up at all times. But I throw it up to one of the screens and just ignore Discord, and I would just, everything went through Foundry. And like I said, it works perfectly on a virtual server. No. Where your latency comes in is, and your issues come in, is if you host and you've got all that bandwidth coming in and going out to everybody. I had 2 issues in my group. I had 2 people using Macs, and Macs, I don't have an issue with Macs. Macs are cool. I've got a Mac over there. I use that for video production because it does better than my Windows machine that I built for a shit ton of money last year. And because I had to rebuild one. But I prefer that for video production. But it has that 8,192 pixel limit, which becomes a problem if you're running something like Mad Mage that has massive maps that go up to like 10, 11,000 pixels in one direction. And then they, all these maps that you spend hours making, they can't see. So then, if you go and look through my Patreon, which is free, I give all my maps away for free. I use Patreon because it gives me an easy way to distribute maps if people want them. But you'll see where I had maps for Mad Mage, and then I had redos where I split the maps in half so that, it became small enough that my Mac users could view the maps. And, you're always going to run into issues whether people have older machines that are slow, because if you send a bunch of data across, that's why with Foundry you have to watch the size of your campaign, because once it gets to like 50 megabytes, everybody runs slow. So ideally you want that campaign and all the data for that one campaign to be like 20, maybe 30 megabytes. And if you let it grow, it gets stupid. And that's why I stopped using Mr. Primate's downloader, importer for everything, because his thing, you go in and you do the Monster Muncher, and it downloads every freaking monster from every freaking book. That's a lot of data. Then it downloads every spell from every book. Then it downloads every item in every book. And then when you pull the adventure in, it's pulling all that stuff in. So your data folder just explodes into this massive size. I had to rebuild a server and reset it up because I made the mistake of using that, and it just made it so the game would not run. And honestly, most of these, even if you go Fantasy Grounds or something like that, you load maps in that are too large, it does create a log jam for data. So you have to be careful about the size of your files and everything that you're throwing in a campaign. What I'll do in Foundry, like I've been running Mad Mage forever, you could go in and set up scenes for every map and have them all ready. But that just created a massive folder with a massive pile of data. So what I'll do is I'll have the scene I'm running and I'll prep the scene they're going to run when they get to the next level. And as they move, I move to the next level and delete the old one. And I'm always maintaining the size of my server and the data that goes across to them so that it doesn't create problems. But that's where you start getting real issues, and it because of the data, it will affect your Discord, it will affect your video. Um, so you've got to watch what you do. Well, I don't really do it in the moment. I That's my prep. I spent 2 years mapping Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and I realized early on that I had to start watching the size of my maps because of my Mac users. And then it started growing, I had level 1 and we're on level 8, and I had all these maps that were in there with stuff still populated in it, and that data still gets sent across to them, right? So it's just a matter of managing your data. And to do that, you go in and it'll have over here your scenes. You click on the scene, you click on the one you don't need anymore, you right click it, you delete it, and it clears the memory. So it's not really tedious. Um, I just I will pre-populate and prep an entire level, sometimes in stream because I need to prep it for the week, and I'll have that ready a couple of weeks ahead of time. I plan on them being moving to the next level this time, but it doesn't always work like that. But I like to clean up all the old levels and keep it small. No, 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 no. Like Mad Mage, if you're familiar with those maps have anywhere from 50 to 70 rooms in them. It's a dungeon crawl, a pure dungeon crawl. And my freaking players love to clear a level. So they're going to go through everything. I've got plenty of time to do it. So when I know I'm like 2 or 3 weeks out from a new level, which we're on level 13, I've got to prep the next level probably in the next week. In fact, I might do that Monday. I don't know. I might prep the next level. But I'll prep it ahead of time and it's ready for them to move on. But to change maps, did I leave it up? Yeah, I did. Let's show you how easy it is to flip scenes. All right, so let's say they're starting. So they're on the Goblin Trail. They go down. They do the combat on this map, right? She comes down. She drops Meteor Storm on 4 goblins because she thinks it's funny. All right, that one's done. We're going to move to the next one. Now, on the way to Cragmaw Hideout, there is a snare trap. And I've talked about this before. I feel like this module is set up to teach them to do minor things like let's yeah, they are freaking monstrous. I'll show you one of the maps. This is set up so that there's a snare trap here. We know new players are not going to go ahead and be doing perception checks, and that's fine. So she walks down here, doink, she has to make a save, she's upside down, she's screaming, and she meteor storms the entire forest because she's pissed off. All right, she cuts herself down and moves on. We go to the next trail. This one has a pit trap. So now she's learned to go ahead and do perception. She'll go in here. We'll roll a perception check, which the perception check will just be a matter of, we'll click here, normal. She probably passed it. It's probably a 10. She doesn't fall in the pit. And then they get to the hideout, and you start them outside, which this map would have to be populated with a couple of goblins. She'd be starting here, and they move on in. You can move between scenes really quickly, and these scenes are all really small. Yeah, it's a great... That's why I decided to build all the maps so it's friendly for Foundry, and I probably will run and stream for some new players that want to play. I have to finally get them to commit to a time, because I've got somebody in Sweden, England, and Brazil. I mean, I got people all over the place. I need to get a time where we can all get together once a week for like 3 hours. And I'll add one or two other players. But I wanted to get this whole thing mapped out, and it's all ready to go. Yeah, exactly. But it'll work. Because they all watch my stream, so I know they're on during my daytime, so it all works. But these are small maps. I could keep all four of these in memory, and it's not going to cause a problem. So it's just when you get into here, I'm going to go ahead and import one of these damn maps. Let's do this. I'll show you how you bring a map in that you've made. So let's say we want to run, what do I want to do? Let's say I want to run these maps were like the most miserable 25 freaking maps ever. Dungeon of Mad Mage. And we'll pull in a full-size map that somebody with a computer that actually has a graphics card in it could see. What's a big one? I don't think I rebuilt this one. I just ran with this one. So let's just do it. Mad Mage level 1. We'll go in, choose file. I'm going to pull it over here because the 4K monitor doesn't like that screen. We'll go to maps. I will end up redoing this map just because I don't like the style I did it in. Level 1, dungeon level, bam. All right, so that'll come in. We won't worry about padding or fidelity. This is one of the things that's a little bit important in here. If you just bring it in where it recommends here with low fidelity, anything that's round or circular, you're going to have to go in and fix the map. You can take care of that a little bit by going up like 1 or 2 slots, but it creates a very large amount of, not cave walls, there are a lot of cave walls. It brings in a lot of extra dots. But we'll bring it in at low fidelity and import it. And you see, even though it's uploading locally, it's going to take a second. So this is the first level of Mad Mage. And like I said, I'm going to redo this. I don't like, these are the built-in assets and stuff. I'm not a fan. But here we go. We're still zooming out. We're still zooming out. That's that map. So this thing is freaking huge. Now I'll show you what I'm talking about of the wall fidelity. It's not too bad. I mean, I would fix this because it cuts in. I'm not real happy with the angles there, so I'd probably fix those. But maps that have a ton of rounds and stuff like that, yeah, my brain doesn't work like that. If I see that and it's off, I'm going to be like, I'm fixing that. I'm a little bit worried about it. See, like this, that bothers the hell out of me. And the fact that this doesn't create a straight wall, it cuts right over to there. But I mean, like I said, it's really easy to fix. So it's not like a major deal. I want my straight walls to be straight. I can't help it. A sysadmin. No. I mean, back in the day, I was Microsoft certified for all that kind of stuff, but no. I did that because the branch office I was in, our systems were always going down, so I went ahead and got set up for Microsoft server security and all that kind of stuff. Spent time learning all of it, and I fixed our stuff instead of calling fucking IT because they were inept. I'm just I'm very I need things to be specific and work properly. Otherwise, I get really angry. I mean, I even coded some software they end up using because some of their system stuff just sucked. But my education was double majoring as a in biology and physics, and they're precise sciences, so especially physics. But yeah, everything pulls in. Like the only issues you would have here on this map would be this is, I know it's a secret door, so you would need to go ahead and turn this into a secret door. And these are stuff where it's really quick and easy to do. You go ahead and click that. Wrong one. No, there's no wiggle room. You would go in there. Is door? Yes. Secret. Right? Bam. Walls updated. You can fix this stuff really quick, really easy. I think this is the only Mad Mage map I haven't redone, and now that I'm looking at it, it's bothering me, and I will redo it eventually. And it's only because, like I said, the stuff that I'm doing now is nicer looking, and I really want the stuff to now be in the style with the assets that I use. But that'll be down the road. I've got a lot of other stuff that I want to do. Now, oh my God, the tools are nice. And like I said, this was built with built-in assets. I think I pulled down a couple of free asset packs to be able to add a couple of things it didn't have. But you can't complain about it. And look here, I think this brought in the lights. So let's click over to darkness. Yeah, it brought in a couple of lights. So the lights that I laid down in this map inside of Dungeondraft did come in. And here's the thing, you could, in theory, set the lights. I don't like how they come in, but you could create all the lights inside of Dungeondraft, have them come in, and just come in here and edit the lights to make them look how you want, and so that they work the way that they should work. So, that is another option you can do, is go ahead and create lights inside of your map. The issue that I've had with them is they come in way too bright most of the time. And, it doesn't work. So, and like I was saying, if we want to manage the memory in here, let's go to a map we're not using, and then we go in here, delete that scene. That just freed up our memory. That's all you've got to do inside of Foundry. So, I mean, I would probably, I prefer setting up, they have, yeah, I mean, you have chandelier assets and stuff like that, but then it looks like it's on the floor. So I'll generally just create lighting in here as though they're like candle chandeliers and maybe a few torches on the side, or lanterns. but I'm not a fan of throwing in overhead things that, unless they're important, don't make it look like there's stuff on the floor that the characters have to worry about. All right, so let's get back to our map. Now, I think so. You have a couple of options here too. Like if you've got a bar, you can do the pathing tool, or you can go in, and a lot of times what I'll do is use the objects themselves because I can lay them down. Um, it's the pathing tool. What'll happen is the corner gets up there and it'll look really weird. It'll warp around. I'm prepping for planning to run it. Like I said, maybe in a month or two. It depends how long it takes me to make these maps. Because it's going to take a little while to make them. So I think we're good here. Let's do that. Put this under, and I think I'm not super happy with that. Maybe what we'll do is this. Hold on. So we'll set that there. And then, let's see, this is what? Barwood light. Let's find the pathing tool and we'll bring that over underneath. Like right along there. It should work. Barwood light. And you got to watch out. There. Now the other option is to do what I was saying. Go down like that. There. It just, I don't know. I don't like that curve. That's me. But I also don't like that shadow. So, I mean, we could do this, that, that. And then it's not as hard of a curve. But that then interferes with our window. And we were going for a little bit of symmetry there. And then we can edit the points. Let's turn snap off. We'll take that back just a little bit. And maybe that'll do. So we can go like that. Take up like half. I mean, it's not pretty because of this, but it works. So we'll leave that there. And that gives us room back there. Now, let's go ahead and start. See, for bar, there's just so much stuff. So I guess at this point, let's take a look. There are also There's also stuff over here like bars and counters. You can look for it that way. What we want are the containers. But I don't think they refer to it. It's storage. So we go in storage. We have all these options here. Barrels, casks. Let's get some small barrels. Those are not small barrels. All right, and I think we're gonna scale it down just a little bit. 1, 2, 3. We'll put up a see, this is where it gets annoying when you put stuff in and fuzzy logic is way too fuzzy. So this is supposed to be a rundown bar, so they can't afford to have all the wine. They're almost out. And then put a couple more barrels over here. So we'll do that. That. And I think we scaled this down too much. Let's delete that and let's just bring it in at full scale. And that should, instead of it looking like we're pulling out of a mini fridge, little tiny wine bottles. We'll set this back to 1. And yeah, we know it's not going to give much room for the bartender. What we probably should do is move these windows over and give a little bit more room behind there. That's the thing. Sometimes when you're doing your layout, you don't think about those things. What is going on here? Now it's like decided it's just going to grab this and not let go. See, it's not. What the hell? That is so fucking weird. I've never had that happen before. That is weird. I guess it just got angry at us there. So yeah, we can move that out like here. And that'll give us the 5 feet we were really looking for. There we go. Now it's not as crowded. I mean, they still won't be able to stand exactly. The bartender won't be able to stand exactly where you want him to stand, but we'll live, right? All right. I guess we're going to have to go to seating because I think that's where the stools are. Then we're going to start setting some tables down. We'll leave them all over the place and messy. Because, you know, patrons don't care. And the guy in the corner has to stand. And then kitchen. Steins. Let's go with mugs. They can't afford steins here. Lids are too expensive. There's a lefty sitting there. He doesn't get to drink. His friends told him he has issues. He can't do that. He's going to eat some cheese. He doesn't get anything to drink, just cheese and sausage. All right, now we need some tables. We should have put some. We should have put these in, since this is supposed to be like a scummy tavern. I think we should do that. They can't afford nice chairs. Everybody gets splinters in their ass. In fact, they can't even afford to have matching furniture. I don't know. That might be too little much. We'll go with this style. It's a little rougher. Why is it not going under? Oh, because it's a path. All right. Let's go to exact. That should get rid of the roofs. I guess table napkin, is that it? Yeah. Yeah, all right. Some patrons there, there. Yeah, that's better. All right, some chairs. We'll make a kitchen back here, I think. You know what? We know these aren't centered on the squares where tokens are actually going to sit, but that's fine. I'm so used to working on these maps that are so immense in size, it doesn't matter the placement of stuff. And this is probably a good idea when you come in and use something like Foundry. Maybe go in and set up so that your tokens take up 80% of the space instead of setting up so it's 100% of the 5 foot square. Because let's face it, we're not 5 foot barrels. I mean, most of us aren't. And you can set that up inside of the settings. So, it's not a bad idea. I'm curious. Okay. So we do have some of the stuff that. Okay. Not that I need an anvil in here, let's face it. They're going to fix their food on a rusty platter. Can't really do it under. A big fucking cabbage. All right. Not pretty, but good enough. Let's put a couple of barrels in. They serve breakfast all day. And this is the healthy guy. He's getting some salad with a big hunk of meat. And they're going to share a pie. He just ordered a plate of meat. And he wanted a radish because he's really weird. And this is the vegetarian corner. And that guy's wondering where the hell they got a plum and a banana from. He got a big old piece of bread to share with everybody at the table because he thinks he won't get as drunk. He's confused. All right. This is a bring your own knife establishment. And everyone here is waiting for service. It's a real simple building, and we're going to call it done. Well, no, we're not going to call it done. We're going to light it. It's going to give me the wrong thing, so let's do lanterns. So place there. One in each room. You know what, we'll do that. We all know a lantern's safe over the coal, so we'll do that. So like I said, these things do come in really bright. So you're going to have to do some adjustment. Inside your tabletop. There's no way to really, I mean, you can, but it's still, Let's take them down to 0.7. Definitely still going to want to adjust these things in your tabletop. But this will get your basic lighting set up. And you'll have to adjust the width. I mean, it's going out, what? 10, 15, 20, 25. So it's not doing the 20 plus 20 as far as bright and dim light. You can do a little bit of adjustment, but it's not going to be as precise as you can do inside the tabletop. So I guess if you want to do it exact, you take it out to 8. And that'll give you close, but it's really 8 across. So just make the adjustments inside the tabletop and you'll be good to go. And then I'm going to place one overhead in the middle of the room. And that'll all come in the VTT, the DD2VTT file. When I export, I'm going to turn the lights off. All right, that'll do. Let's take a look at the map. There's not a lot of other stuff on there. So that'll suffice for a basic combat map for coming in, run into these guys, and getting a fight. All right, so let's start our export. So we're going to turn the lighting off for the non-VTT saves. And you know what we're going to do? Set it at 150 pixels. Be a little bit more clear for detail. Export. We need maps. Lost Mine. Phandalin. Sleeping Giant. Not Giant. Giant. And I'm not worried about the exterior. This is here for a potential combat that may or may not happen. Come on. There you go. Now it's misbehaving again. Today has been a little bit silly with this map. And we'll do the gridless saves. All right, Sleeping Giant is done. I think we're going to call it for the day. After my lack of sleep last night, I'm going to go crash for a while. We'll be back on Monday, maybe this weekend if we do game and do anything, we'll get on, but definitely be back on Monday, probably working on the street scene and the other inn, and that will finish off this little thing for the ruffians, and then we can work on the rest of the town buildings. So everybody have an awesome rest of your day. Have a great weekend if I don't see you this weekend streaming, and we'll definitely catch you next week. Have an awesome weekend.